Now, let's move on to the hardest hitting section of the study. The researchers used the PXRF, portable X-ray fluorescence, compositional analysis on the 7 guns. The instrument they used was an Olympus Winter C series, running at 50 keV, with the analysis carried out in the LISIC laboratory of the University of the Philippines School of Archaeology. What this means is that we can figure out the actual chemical composition of these firearms, as well as any chemical residues, without destroying a single part of a collection. Each gun was scanned section by section, including the tiller socket, branch, sphere, barrel, muzzle, touch hole, lug, and sight, with each point taking 180 seconds. The material analysis this time is incredibly detailed. This discovered that all 7 guns are made of ternary copper alloy, specifically leaded tin bronze. The composition ranges as follows. Copper's varies from 37.77% to 83.57%, tin from 3.11% to 22.41%, and lead from 0.87% to 47.72%. They also detected trace elements like arsenic, bismuth, nickel, and manganese. But here is a twist. While scanning the bronze surfaces, the device picked up something the researchers weren't even looking for: traces of sulfur and potassium on the firing surfaces of 2 of the guns. And these traces weren't random. They appeared on HHG-001 from Pendant rig, specifically on the muzzle and the tiller socket. They also showed up on HHG-003 from the Lena rig on the touch hole, the handle, and the muzzle. Interestingly, both of these are short-range, flared muzzle, blunderbuss type guns, which were designed for close quarters defense. In contrast, these traces did not appear on the long-range, single-bullet guns. This pattern is hard to dismiss as an accident. The muzzle, the touch hole, and the tiller sockets are the actual exact part of the gun that come into direct contact with the powder charge when fired. As we know, black powder consists of roughly 75% saltpeter or potassium nitrate, which leaves potassium behind, 10% sulfur, which leaves sulfur, and 50% charcoal, which leaves carbon. The PXRF device detected 2 of these 3 signature elements, potassium and sulfur, right on the firing surfaces. It couldn't detect carbon simply because PXRF isn't great at measuring light elements. Because of this, the authors of the paper are very cautious. They call these traces possible black powder elements, rather than confirm the gunpowder residue. Still, the presence of potassium and sulfur together in the exact right places offers strong circumstantial evidence. It is not a closed case just yet, but it is a massive step forward. The most important takeaway here is that this is the very first time PXRF has been applied to handguns from Philippine shipwrecks, and the first time anyone has raised the question of gunpowder residue. These chemical elements, potassium, sulfur, and carbon, act like a chemical signature. The researchers aren't claiming to have a final answer. Instead, they are pointing the way for future studies to use more advanced techniques, like scanning electron microscopy with energy-dispersive X-ray spectroscopy, or gas chromatography mass spectrometry, to test for the full signature inside the gun balls. If a future video confirms all 3 elements, these handguns will be upgraded from likely used to definitely fired. More importantly, the pre-colonial gun trade in the South China Sea will be upgraded from inferred from the gun design to proven by residue analysis. Now that we've covered the hard data, let's look at 3 other fascinating speculations made in the paper, apart from the gunpowder theory. The further speculation is that HHG-001 might have been fired from some kind of mount or stand. Its rear tiller socket is only 1.2 cm deep. As the researchers note, this is too shallow to hold the tiller firmly without falling off, suggesting the gun was probably stock mounted. This observation also reveals an interesting detail. If that was the case, the wooden tiller would no longer carry the full weight of the gun. Instead, its yaw would change to a helper grab when the barrel got too hot. It suggests that among these 7 handguns, not every single one was designed to be held entirely by hand. The second speculation is that HHG-007 closely resembles the gun of Chinese origin found in the Molucas Sea. The paper provides a key cross-reference to a 2021 book by Sean McLaughlin titled Medieval Handguns, the first black powder infantry weapons. So what does this mean? It means that in the Molucas Sea, located in what is now the Molucca Islands of Indonesia, famously known as the Spicy Islands, someone discovered a 14th to 15th century gun and identified it as Chinese. This reference opens up a whole new imaginative space. These 15th century South China Sea handguns might not have been isolated local Southeast Asian products. Instead, they may have been part of a vast regional maritime firearms network in China, the Philippines, and the Moluccas. The guns navigating these waters might have been actively exchanged, influencing each other's form and design. The third speculation is perhaps the most surprising. These firearms were not just used for actual combat. They were powerful tools for intimidation and signaling. The researchers thought that the use of sea-going firearms was not exclusively carried out for combat, but was also a means of intimidation, adding that firing them would have been intimidating. The paper also notes it is possible these guns were used for signaling or as onboard armaments to prepare the crews psychologically for impending battles. Why is this idea so interesting? Because it challenges our basic assumption that a firearm is strictly a lethal weapon. This actually reminds me of the signal cannons I saw at Beihai Park, which I shared in my vlog last year. Looking back at these 15th century handguns, we have to admit that these short bronze barrels, loaded slowly, had a very short range and provided limited killing power. In a chaotic sea fight, their actual lethality might not have been very effective. Instead, their true value lay in the dramatic noise, flash, and smoke they created. Picture these scenes. Out on the open sea, an unknown ship approaches. You pull out a handgun, aim, and fire. There is a deafening crack, a bright flash of fire, and a massive cloud of smoke. Even today, if someone suddenly did that to us on the street, it would give us quite a jump scare. So back then, the psychological impact likely did far more work than the actual bullet. That may well have been the real psychological game of 15th century handguns in the South China Sea. And that wrapped up today's video. Thank you for watching. Hope you can like this video. Take care, stay safe, and I will see you next time.